Welcome to The Gateway, your compass through the uncharted waters of mystical and spirit communication, broadcast live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. I hope you guys had a really good Christmas. I did. Tonight we talk about mediumship and is it a spiritual calling? My guest is a medium and host of his own paranormal show, The Paranormal Project, Scott Allan. Scott is an exciting friend. He is exciting because he just does so many things. Wait until he gets on here. He started out as a funeral director and then he became a medium. So it's a really interesting story. I will let him tell his own story. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, CL, how are you? So good to see you again.
It's so good to see you too. Did you have a good holiday?
I did have a good holiday, although I have to admit I'm a little glad it's over. I'm still kind of reeling from it. Just, exhaustion leading up to it. I actually like this week in between Christmas and New Year's because, the rush is over. It's still the season. Kind of get through New Year's Eve and I don't know, it just is it's a lot nicer pace, I think.
You don't quite have to throw away your Christmas tree just yet. You have until after New Year's.
This is true.
There's a lot of people though. There's a lot of people out there who I've been reading on Facebook all day where they just take everything down like the day after.
Well, that's because they've had it up in October. Well, it's like they've had it up since Halloween. I mean, you're just fed up with it. I try not to put it up until, into December. And so at least I get, a few weeks out of it. I usually keep it up right through New Year's and then take it down. Although I have had a Valentine's Day tree on occasion once or twice. And I don't have a real tree. I have an artificial tree. So it doesn't really matter. It's not going to burn up or anything in the living room. But I just get busy.
I do not have a Christmas tree this year because I have a cat that tries to climb. I mean, it's like a month-long battle with the cat, so I just did not even put one up this year.
Yeah, but I know someone whose tree has come down 3 times with their cat. So
yeah,
it's one of those things.
I was actually on a video call 2 years ago, and it was a room full of people at work. We were having a business meeting, and in the background, because it was COVID still, I had a tree in the background. And of course, you see my cat swinging in midair, grabbed a tree, and the whole tree went down behind me. It was just hilarious.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
But
good to be here with you, though. I mean, it's your brand new show. I love this. We did your other show last year, and here we are again. I love you. Like, you have a producer now. This is big league. I love this.
This is big league.
Good for you.
I don't know if I'm good enough to have my own show. I'm trying. Hey, Elizabeth is on. Betsy is on. She says hello.
Hi, Betsy. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so I guess we'll start with you. How did you tell us your story? Because your story is so interesting, even though
it is. Well,
go ahead.
I was a funeral director for 35 years. I dealt with grief and death and dying. I mean, that was my entire life. I was on the board of directors of the Massachusetts Funeral Directors Association. I owned 3 funeral homes, saw a lot of families, saw a lot of people in the worst time of their lives. And even though there were thousands, and I mean thousands of dead people who came and went through the door, over the period of, 35 years or so, not one of them talked to me. Not one. And it's really interesting because in hindsight, I look back and I see, the signs were all there. It was the empathic stuff. I built a new funeral home from the ground up. I was hearing people walking around upstairs. I knew when they were around me, and not once did I ever attribute it to the fact that I could sense them and other people could not. I didn't. I just thought, that must be like a little haunted or something, because it was there had been an old house there 100 years earlier. And so I really didn't think that this is what it was, because it isn't what I saw it as in the movies. Like I saw Ghost, that ruined it. Sixth Sense. It's so not like that. It's so much more So I never thought that this is what it was. And in hindsight, I see, oh yeah, duh. I mean, there were the signs; they were everywhere. But it's so interesting because I had this thought. I was speaking with someone a few weeks back, and I served the living for the sake of the dead as a funeral director. I served their families. That's who my client was. It was their families for them. And here we are now, and I serve the dead for the sake of the living. In other words, it's the dead that come through to leave their messages. They're not dead. I mean, we call them the dead. They're not dead. They are very much alive. They're very much communicating, but I serve them now. And when I do a reading, I say, come to me, come and tell me what you want me to know, and use me, use my history, use my memories, use my thoughts. And they do. And it's all so that they can deliver their message to those on the, to those that are still here with us. And so, 35 years of doing that, I really got burnt out. I wanted to be closer to my family. I wanted to be closer to home because I wasn't. And my parents were getting older. I lost my mom last year. My dad's in his 80s. I needed to be around them. I couldn't be far away. And so I gave it all up and I left. And that's when it happened. That's when I almost feel like I got accosted by the spirit world. It really became difficult to deny that something was happening. And even then, I still didn't think it was mediumship. I thought it was a spirit attachment or something. It took me a couple of
Mhm.
years of dealing with it to understand what was really, really taking place, because it was very left brain. I mean, I came from an industry that was, I thought very well respected. You join the church, you join the Lions Club, you join the Kiwanis, you volunteer for civic organizations, you help out and serve dinners at the church supper, and you serve people in a capacity that you have to guide them through a lot of details when they don't want to deal with any details, and they can't deal with any details. And now all of a sudden I'm going from that respected profession to this kind of woo-woo thing, you know, and I thought, oh man, I mean, I'm not wearing a turban. I don't have a crystal ball. That's not me at all. That's not how I don't need any of that stuff. That's not how it works. But that's the perception of what being a medium was to me. And
Mhm.
I think that was also part of the reason why it took me a while, because how do I go from that to this?
Now you had a spirit guide for a while that kind of had
Yeah.
woken you up, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't know that's what he was. He's still there. It's not as in my face as it was years ago, but it's very true. And it started out with him. His name is David, and I know his name is David because he would reach out to me through the radio. He would talk to me on the radio. You've heard recordings. I've played them
Mhm.
for you. He would come through on the radio. He would come through on spirit boxes. He would come through on recordings.
I
And
think you
and
played one of those for me.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Scott. This is David. He even came into
Mhm.
work one day and asked for me and said, tell him David stopped by." And I don't know a David who's in this world. I don't know I don't know a David. I
Right.
didn't recognize him. I'd never seen him before when we saw him on the camera, on the security camera. And he left. He never called. He never came back. And that was at the time where everything was David. And I thought, man, what is this David thing? I thought I had a spirit attachment, because I'd
It's
gone
like
on
a
a couple
spirit
of ghost
stalker.
hunts. What's that?
It's like a spirit stalker.
Well, it is, because I thought, oh man, I went on a ghost hunt. Terrific. A friend of mine said, come with me. And I figured she's an older retired woman. What's the harm? I can outrun her. They'll get her before before they get me. But we went, and then all of a sudden I got like these spirits calling me out. I thought this isn't normal. And after 2 or 3 months of that, and it wasn't just that. I was really, like I said, I was feeling them around me. I had seen things. I mean, there was stuff I couldn't explain.
Mhm.
And I reached out to a woman I had met who is a medium, and I said, listen, I have a spirit after me, which is really what I thought. I said, I don't know what I need to do to get rid of this thing, but I need help. And she put me in touch with another woman who's a shaman, And really, I mean, you talk about woo-woo stuff, it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I didn't get it, and I thought these people are out of their minds, and they're telling me, no, you're a medium. I'm like, no, I'm a large. I was a medium in high school. I know I haven't been a lot. I haven't been a medium in years, but it's true. And it took me months, and it was a couple of years, to be honest with you, before I said, okay, I'm supposed to do this. Let me do it. But I had been doing, she was telling me to quote unquote practice and bring friends of friends in that didn't matter. You know what I mean? If I made a
Right.
mistake, it was fine. And I did. I read them, and to my surprise, they understood what I was receiving and giving to them. And some of them thought, my God, this is means so much to me. And I'm like, man, hit myself in the head. Like, how is this possible? Like, how are you understanding what I'm telling you? It doesn't, I know it's coming from somewhere, but Crystal, have you ever had a thought and say, now, why the heck did I just think of that? Or why did I just say that?
Yeah.
It's
All the
that
time.
kind of thing. And when you open yourself up to it as a medium and you say, okay, come on, show me, that's how it is. But it's like a lot more intense. You get
And
visions and everything that go with it.
right. And the other thing too is a lot of times you just get the bits and pieces and nothing quite makes sense, but then when you tell the
Right.
client, everything makes sense to them.
Right. Because it's not our message. It's not for us to understand. And I say that to people, that I may get things that I don't understand. And I'll ask them, can you tell me what that means, or help me to understand why you're telling me this? And sometimes they do. And sometimes it's almost like it's none of your business,
Mhm. Yes.
like it's none of your business. Just tell them what I'm telling you. You don't need to understand. And then I tell them and they say, oh yeah, I totally get that. Totally get
Mhm.
that.
Without going into too much detail too. Like, sometimes it's so personal
Yeah.
to them that but they understand it.
Well, it's funny. I had a reading this morning, and honestly, it comes through me so quickly that I tend to forget. So I don't remember the details surrounding it. But there were two people that came through, and they were similar. And we don't know if it's this one. It could be that one. We're not sure. And I said in my head, "Can you give me something that will set you apart? Set you apart?" And they showed me birdhouses. Now, I said, well, like, what's with the birdhouses? I got nothing, right? Birdhouses. And I thought, that's really weird. And I said to the gentleman, I said, why are they showing me birdhouses? Oh, I totally get that. Now I know who it is. I know which one it is. I said, you do? You understand that? Yeah, I do. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad you do, because I don't need to. I just tell them what I need to tell them, and that's it. But you're right. It is. It's like those little clips.
Yeah,
It's
there's
those
just, like,
little,
little things, and sometimes you just feel so silly saying that too because it could be something so out of the blue, like you said, birdhouses, and then you're sitting there
yeah.
going, "Okay, I'm gonna feel so stupid if I say birdhouses to this lady," or whoever it is
No.
you're reading, but
It's so true. It's very true. I remember saying to someone once, "Hey, who auditioned for American Idol?" And really, Crystal, it's like your mouth engages before your brain does. In other words, you don't even know where it's coming from. You're hearing it for the first time as it's coming out of your mouth. Who auditioned for
Mhm.
American Idol? She said, "Oh, my next door neighbor." I mean, like, what are the odds? She had just lost a baby the year before, and I have stopping myself. Like, I'd rather be wrong and then not give it, because I find that
Right.
when you give it, it's that most beautiful, obscure little moment.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it's all about. If I said, I've got a man here, his name is Joe. He looks like he could be your great grandfather. Well, no kidding. Okay. Because I'm 60. So your great grandfather, yeah, I would have a great grandfather on the other side. And his name could be Joe, Bob, Dick, or Bill. You had a chance of four, you know?
Everybody's name was John back then.
Yeah, everybody's name was John. But if you're talking about the birdhouses he created and the little cuckoo clocks that he made in his little
Mhm.
factory, and or whatever it is, those are the beautiful moments that
Yeah,
stick
I
with
feel like
you.
That's one of the things I really like about evidential mediumship too. That subtle detail is what sets it apart to where you're not just going out there and saying, "Oh, I feel a spirit and his name is Mickey and he died in this hotel." But there's no like verification to verify any of the stuff that the person's saying, you know?
Yeah. Right. And I won't do things that aren't evidential. So as an example, I had someone ask me recently on a reading, what's my spirit guide's name? Like, how do I know? I mean, I could tell you any name in the book. You can't validate it. So I'm not going to go down that road with you. I don't know. I mean, I may get a name, because you'll hear stuff, like, oh, it could be, whatever. But that doesn't mean that it really is that
Right.
person's name. And, but if I got your grandmother's name or your mother's name and what she did for work and the street that she lived on and what she died from and how long she had been sick and who was in the room with her when she crossed and that she left a slipper under the bed, they took her out and
Mhm.
one was stuck in the sheets. And I mean, these are the kinds of things you go, oh my God, you know what I mean? And it's not
Right.
just that, it's painting, we call it painting the person to life. It's,
Mhm.
it's, not just those details, because not anybody can get that, but when you can paint their personality and they share who they are with emotions and thoughts and feelings, and sometimes you just feel it. You just feel the love coming from them.
Yeah.
Those are the moments. Those are the moments that I think go a long way. Truly.
It's very true. On the flip side too, though, one of the things that comes up a lot with mediumship, it's okay to be wrong. If a medium, like I think that what is it? Only 75% of the stuff a medium says is correct. Usually, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but
Yeah.
we're not
Well,
a
I don't
hundred
know.
percent right all the time.
We're not. And why? Because we're human beings and our brains get in the way. So I think it's really important. I'll tell people right at the very beginning of a reading, while I'm making a link for you, please, please, please don't comment, don't ask me questions, because what happens is I almost have to be in this sort of like daydreaming kind of state
Mhm.
to get it. You just have to let it come through you. Um, if you ask me a question or bring me out of that mode, it breaks the link, and and that's it. I can't, and once I start thinking, it's all over. So sometimes what'll happen is you'll get something as a medium that you don't understand, and you'll think, well, what the heck does that mean? Oh, now I'm in my left brain. Now it doesn't
Right.
work
Now
anymore.
you just flipped over.
And you just flipped over, and that's when you're wrong. So you really have to try not to do that. And those are some of the triggers, like asking a question or making a comment. Don't tell me about, it really is true. I don't want to know anything when I sit down with you, because if I know you're looking to speak with your grandmother who passed a month ago, that's all that's in my head. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't get that out of my head. So now I'm thinking, well, is she here? Is it her? It gets you thinking. So the less you know, the
How
better.
how do you discern between your own thoughts and that of spirit?
I think really it's that I've never heard it before. I don't know it, which is why I can't read myself. I can't bring my loved ones in because I know them too well.
Mhm.
As I said, sometimes I most often I've not heard it until it comes out of my mouth. Sometimes it's that flash in the brain. And I also, really interesting, I don't know if all mediums get this, but I do get this physical sensation. I get a physical feeling. Usually it's between my elbow and my shoulder, and it's almost like a pressure, like sort of like goosebumps, sort of tingly, but with a little pressure on it. Sometimes I'll also get it in the knees if it's even stronger. So when they're a strong spirit, when they've got a strong personality, it's almost like they get excited, like, yes, 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 you understand. Like when I say something from them and you understand it, it's like they give me that feeling. It's like, yes, she got it, okay, keep going. And then they start giving me more stuff. But I know when we're not really there. That's why someone will I'll do a gallery and they'll try to claim, I think that's my grandmother. And I know it's not. I just know. I just get a feeling I'm not with you. I need to keep looking. I think I'm over here. And it's that feeling we get.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that
For
happens to
me, it's
you.
like the I get a ringing in my ear a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah, we all get it different, but it's that type of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Whenever, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is that there's so many people coming out and saying that they're mediums now. It's everywhere. And it just seems like a lot of people are picking it up in order to make money or whatever it is that they want to do with it. Do you think that it's like a spiritual awakening that's going on? Do you think everybody has this ability? What do you think is going on with
Oh,
this?
this could take the whole rest of the time on the show. I think that, excuse me, I think that there is a little bit of a spiritual awakening. But I'll say this, I think we all have a little something, right? There's a little quote unquote magic in all of us. And I think the problem is that we don't stop and listen. We don't quiet ourselves down and really notice. I could have been doing readings, 20 years ago, I think, if I had just stopped. But you don't do this when you're a funeral director. You
Oh,
don't do
yeah.
that. You have to listen and you have to pay attention. Then I think there are the people who watch TV and feel that they need to be what people are expecting when they watch a movie like The Sixth Sense or Ghost.
Mhm.
So they're not getting it like that. They're not.
Right.
But I think they're trying to make it look like they get it like that because it looks more incredible. It's the showmanship and mediumship. And showmanship, look, I do galleries in front of 50 or 100 people. So, that being said, that's showmanship, but it's not an act. It's not like learning to saw a person in half in a magic show, and then you can do it over and over. It's different every single time, and it's different depending on who's in the room with me, depending upon the spirits that are coming through, and it always has to be authentic. But I think that some people will throw away the authenticity for the presentation or the show. And that doesn't mean that they don't have something. They may have a gift. I don't know who has a gift and who doesn't, but I've seen some the way they act, and I think, it just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they're not real. I just don't think that they're being authentic in their gift. I think they're more about the showmanship than they are about the actual evidence that comes through. And
Right.
I've seen that with a few people. So yeah, and are there frauds? Look, no matter where you go, there's going to be somebody who upsets the apple cart. But I really, think that I'm just reading some of the
Yeah.
questions here. Yeah.
Linda has a really good question, and it's actually one that I wanted to ask you because I've had a reading go sour.
Mhm.
The person was just not ready to receive what I had to give to her flat out. But what do you do when you have a reading that goes bad or someone that you couldn't read in front of you?
So I always say it's a three-way conversation. It's me, it's the person in spirit, and it's the person I'm sitting with. If one of the three of us doesn't exist, the reading doesn't happen. Okay. So I have to be there as the medium. The spirit obviously has to be there because otherwise there'd be no spirit to communicate with. And the sitter has to be there. That person in spirit is not going to chat with me if their loved one isn't there. It doesn't work that way. Otherwise, I'd go home and talk to Elvis at night.
Right.
I'd love to. It doesn't work
Michael
that way.
Jackson.
Yeah, they don't talk to me. They're not interested. So likewise, I find that if I have a headache, if I didn't sleep well, if I'm hungry, if I ate too much, if I got in a disagreement with someone before a reading, my head's not in the right place. If I can't calm my mind down and think only about nothing, what I'm doing, I won't do a reading. If you are in intense grief as the sitter, as the person that's getting the reading, if you're in intense grief, even though you want to talk to your husband, your wife, your whomever so deeply, you may not because that grief is blocking it. So I feel like all of the elements need to be in place for this to happen. And when I don't read someone, I just tell them. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen from time to time. Like, look, I just have nothing for you. I have nothing. And they may think they're open, but it may not be. They may be things they're not telling us. They may be under their, under their breath, or in their heart thinking, well, I really want to talk to my mother, but I don't want her to tell him this or this about me. Stuff like that. I don't read minds. I don't know what's going on in anybody's head, but some of that stuff can block people off. I had a woman call me last week. She had lost someone very, very, very close to her, only 2 or 3 days ahead of time. And she wanted to know if she could get a reading. And I said, listen, you have to be as ready to receive a reading as you are to not receive a reading,
Mhm.
because sometimes you're just not in the right place mentally, and you won't get it. They might be here, but you won't understand it. You won't see it. The message won't come across, because you have to be ready. You have to be ready to not get the message. And when you're ready, and when you're really truly open, I think it'll happen. But you have to be. So, they're just as responsible for the session as I am. And so I give them the list of things. And then if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We're not magicians.
Right.
But
And I think
usually
that
well, I was just going to say, though, usually there's someone that'll come through. You might want to speak to your husband, but your grandmother comes through. And that doesn't mean he's not okay. But if you're only focused on him, if you're just focused on my husband coming through, you may not even recognize your grandmother and the things that she's saying. You know what I mean?
right. It's interesting too. That's what makes a trained medium versus somebody who hasn't really spent much time developing to be able to handle a caseload like that. Because the flip side of this too is that if you're not trained enough as a medium to do just a little bit of that kind of counseling, you can really hurt somebody in this.
Oh my gosh, you hold the heart of these people really in your hands. There are some people that'll go out to a gallery because it's entertaining and it's interesting, and
Mhm.
maybe we'll get a reading, and we like to see other people get a reading, and that's all fine, right? But then you get the ones that come in, and you're dealing with some bucket loads of pain. People that have
Yeah.
lost children and spouses, and that are dealing with some heavy stuff. And man, what's it like as a medium when they want to speak to their child, and their child won't come through, or can't come through? I shouldn't say won't, but doesn't come through. How do you do this? How do you handle that? And I think that's where you have to understand what your limits are, and you have to be a caregiver, because you are a caregiver. But see, I set it all out beforehand. You go and you look at some people, um, and they'll say, I can read anybody. Don't worry, just come on and I'll bring your so and so through. And I don't do that. I'll tell them, look, I'm going to do the best I can, but I can't promise you, because I don't know if they'll come through. It doesn't mean they're not in a good place. I believe that they are. I truly are. But you might not be ready for it today. They might not be ready for it today. They might be acclimating and doing whatever they need to do, because their personality sticks with them. So if they're quiet, if they're private, if they're shy, that stays right through the reading. They may not even want to talk to me. They might be like, who's this guy? I don't want to tell him anything. I'm not ready to tell him my life story, and how I passed, and how I took my own life, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They not be ready for that. And so you've got to give them time too. That's why I think the mindset is just so important.
So when we talk about being in spirit, what does that actually mean?
Out of the body and into spirit. Our spirit, um, we expire. It just expires. The spirit leaves the body, but it's energy. And is it Einstein that said energy cannot be created nor destroyed? It just changes. I think we have this idyllic vision of what heaven is, sort of like up there somewhere, and the other places down there. And I don't think so. I really think it's all around us. And it's sort of like a dog whistle. I think it's how I make an analogy to a dog whistle, that if you blow the dog whistle, the dogs come running because they hear it, but we can't hear it. I think it's like that with us, is that they're here, but not everybody can recognize that frequency. vibrational level. And some people can, but they're not any less here, you know?
So Linda asks, do you see spirit in your mind or do you read the energy or a combo? That's a pretty good question because I get that a lot.
Yep. And I'm going to sneeze. I knew it was coming. I couldn't stop it. I was going to say, I think I hit the mute button in time. You know, Linda, we all get it different. For me, I do see spirit, but not in the way. It's not like I don't see them in the room with me, like I see Crystal when she's in the room, you know, or through the screen. Sometimes it's not even the whole person. Sometimes it's something about them that is significant. Like sometimes they'll show me like their veins, like they have veins popping up all over, something vascular going on. Sometimes it's a hair color or a nose. Sometimes it's their shoes. They have really big feet. Or sometimes it's, you know, how their hair, they have almost no hair or they're thin. Sometimes it's just that little bit of something to help identify them. But it's rare that I get the full on person the way they looked in this life. And I think you and I have talked about that. That's why I
We
don't know
have.
that I could ever do spirit art or drawings, because I don't know that I get them that way.
Yeah, and for me, I don't hear them as much as other mediums say that they do. I see more of like what flashes of the person,
Yeah. Yeah.
either almost like an image or something, like a picture. Like I'll just see the images. So it's very visual.
Yeah, I get it that way too. But I feel like over time it is refined a lot more as I get sometimes in that little flash, that 3 millisecond flash of an image is this microburst of emotion. Sometimes I feel like happy, sad, whatever. Sometimes I can, even if I just stop and I pay attention to my body, I can almost tell you where it's affecting me. Like there's something right here, or this, you know, or whatever, wherever it is, you know, I can tell that there's something going on, you know.
Mhm.
What does Tabitha say? The funniest thing to me is that folks have a hard time thinking that spirit would be out during the day. Well, you know, and isn't it funny? We say this all the time too. Like houses that are haunted at 2 PM too. They don't just come out at night. Spirits are there. I mean, they're like all the time, all the time.
I think it makes for good TV to do the TV shows at the middle of the night, though, to do the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff at nighttime.
I think it's just the vibe. I think it's just the vibe, but it's
If
just
you
as
think
haunted
about
at
it,
2
though,
PM.
the nighttime, though, if you think about it, it's because you're right. Everything's quiet. You know, you're not going to have the neighbors blasting, well, hopefully not blasting music all night. And
Right.
it kind of is the ideal time to do any
From
kind of
that
ghost hunting.
perspective, it really is, because you want to go when the world is quieted down a little bit. If you're doing
Mhm.
recordings and you're trying to catch someone on a recording, then you don't want to have cars whizzing by and people blaring music outside. So it's nice to have it. But don't you think too, it happens, CL, when you absolutely least expect it. And sometimes when
It's
you're not
so
even looking
true.
for it, that's when it'll
It's so
happen.
true. It just for instance, I stayed at the Mitzvah Hotel yesterday for Christmas. Me and some friends stayed up there just for the fun of it, and um, I went up to her room because we were on different floors, and I went to her room, knocked on the door, and there's this beautiful antique desk, writer's desk, on that floor. And it was the first thing I noticed because I just love antiques. And so I was looking at it before, I just briefly kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, that's so pretty." And then, went into our room for a couple of minutes. And by the time we came out, I just happened to notice that desk again, and the door was pulled all the way out, and there was nobody else up on that floor.
Mm.
But yeah, it was the least expected for any kind of activity that early on. It was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were
Yeah.
just on our way to dinner.
Well, what about
Yeah.
when were you on my show? A couple of weeks ago?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I'm going through the recordings and there's a voice that says, "Hi, Scott." which is
Mhm.
what happens to me all the time, but not usually on a show. And it wasn't even my track. It was my co-host, Christina. It was her track. It came through. And then a cat came through on yours.
So, my cat doesn't meow. Loki does not
Yeah.
meow.
It's just the strangest thing, so it happens when you least expect it. What's I say? They're all around all the time. They don't
What's
make
strange
appointments.
about that, though, is, when you played the recording, it sounded like a cat I used to have.
You said that. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And who knows? And we've caught cats on camera and all. It's just strange, I don't think anybody really has the answers to this, why it happens the way it happens. I'd like to know who that voice was and who was trying to reach out and say hello, but
so
thank you.
it wasn't David, though, was it?
No, this was a woman this time. Sounded like one.
Interesting.
Sounded like a woman. And you know what's odd is I thought the voice sounded somewhat familiar, but I can't place it. I can't place it. It's almost
So,
like I know it from somewhere.
do you think that mediumship is a calling?
I do. And I do, and I'm trying to be thoughtful in the way that I answer this because I think that it has been calling me my entire life. As I look back, I notice it. I notice the signs. There is a reason why I became a funeral director and started working around the funeral home when I was 16 years old. There's a reason for that, and I think it was preparing me for this. I was doing what I needed to do to learn how to care for people because I think that's what we do is we care for people. The real mediums, the real people who are doing God's work and caring for the bereaved, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not gazing into a
Mhm.
crystal ball and telling fortunes and it's not showmanship. It's the real thing. This is what I have been getting ready for my whole life. And I think that let me tell you, when you get close to 60, you forget what you were going to say. So bear with me for a minute. It is like going out the window. There was a point to this here. There was a point that I was going to say. Yeah, good Lord. It's
Been a long week. It's been a long
telling you,
weekend.
it's brutal. Oh, I know what I was going to say. When you're doing what you are supposed to do, what you were put here to do, you can't help but do it. So, yeah, it's a calling, but the universe just lays it all out in front of you. And, you meet people, you learn things, you find people around you who will help you grow and help you do more of the good work that you're supposed to do. And I find that that's what's happening to me. If I wanted to be the next great American Idol, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But I could try. I could try like heck, but that's not what I'm supposed to do. Instead, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and it's like they roll out the red carpet for you. And I mean, like spirit will roll out the red carpet for you. You just find the contacts and you meet the people and you do the work. And I think that's really what it's all about. I found it. I found it. And I loved being a funeral director for a while. I loved helping people and caring for people. I couldn't go back to it now. I don't think I could go back to it because I feel like where I am now is what I did then. I'm still dealing with the same people, but in a very different way.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to work. When I say I don't have to work hard, I mean, I do work hard, but I don't have to work at it to get noticed. People just find me. And I'm so grateful. Excuse me. I'm so grateful. It took me long enough to figure it out, but I'm grateful that I finally did, because it would have been a waste, really.
Do you think that mediumship, you have to be kind of a strong person because you're dealing with a lot of other people's emotions and hurts and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a lifelong journey to get to this point too. Like you have to go through a whole lot of well, I feel like you had to go through a whole lot of stuff in life and experience a whole lot of different things to be able to counsel people this way.
So let me just say, and I think it's real important for me to say it this way, to put it out there. I don't counsel anybody, and I will be the first one to tell them, look, I'm not a counselor. I do not have a degree, and some people do, have backgrounds in therapy and psychology. I don't. I do have a background in funeral directing, so I know how to guide you from A to Z. I know where to direct you. I know where to point you. I know if you've lost a child, I can send you to compassionate friends. I know if you have other issues, I can send you to this place or that place, but I'm not the counselor. But what I can do is facilitate a communication. And sometimes that's the healing that people need, that they need to know their loved ones are okay. I'm okay. The love we shared in this life is not over. It's not gone. It still exists. It's just changed. It's different. Once you get that and you can facilitate that communication, I think understanding that too is what makes a good medium a better medium. To understand what their place is. And you're right, the life experience, the experience through the years, whatever that experience is, because you bring your own experience to whatever you do. I bring what I bring, but that's not maybe the be all end all. I mean, you bring something different, and other people will bring something different. We know another medium who was in the priesthood, I don't think he actually
Mhm.
went all the way, but he brings that pastoral. You talk about counseling, that pastoral uh, side and experience with him into his mediumship, and it's just beautiful how it
Yeah.
just blossoms and unfolds. So I think we all have something, and spirit will make sure that the people that need us are the right people that need us. I'm not going to have someone call me that needs you or that needs someone else, but the ones that I'm able to help will find me, and vice versa. So I think that life experience is important. I don't know that I would have been as effective, 30 years ago as I am now. And I don't think I'm as effective now as I will be in 10 years. That's just, I feel like even 10 years from now is going to change a lot.
So you brought up a good point with he brings that pastoral side
Hmm.
to mediumship. Where does God play in mediumship? Not so much religion, but the idea of God or a higher being or like
So,
some sort of
so
spiritual element.
yeah, and everybody's idea of God, who God is different based on your beliefs and how you were raised. You could call it spirit, you can call it the universe, energy, the universal energy, God, Buddha, whatever you want to say, right? We all have our own version. What I think it's important to note is that the mediums that I know and that I work around and work with are the most God centered people I know. Now, does that mean they sit in church every week? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's it. I had someone write to me recently and tell me I was doing the work of the devil. And you
Yeah, I've
get
gotten
these
that before
people,
too.
yeah, they have their beliefs, whatever.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I don't think that a devil would help heal so many people. I just don't. And there is a God, a universe, whatever you want to call it, that is behind all of this. There is this universal life force that just puts all of these pieces together and promotes the healing. I don't have any interest in anything dark or anything negative. And the opposite of that is love and God. And that's really, I think, who's behind all of this. And that could be whatever you call it. I think it's just that one universal life force, but whatever you want to call it is up to you. But we are God-centered people. We're not doing the devil's work. We're not doing Satan's work. Satan can mimic, and why is Satan going to come through me to help somebody else heal and feel better about themselves? I don't think that's what a devil or a demon would do.
Right.
I just don't.
I used to get that a lot too.
Yeah.
Back when I was involved. I just don't even pay attention to that kind of stuff anymore. But
No, but some people feel they need to reach out and let me know.
yeah. That's very true.
Just goes
So
on.
tell me about what your thoughts on about spirits being trapped in a particular place, because we hear that a lot in paranormal.
We do. I have mixed feelings on it. I don't know if they're trapped in the sense of being trapped. I think some willfully stay. I think they don't want to go. Some of them. It could be they're afraid of judgment. It could be, they may have some time of just like what just happened to me. And then this realization of, but my family's here. I'm not going. I mean, I don't know. These are just thoughts that I
Right.
have. I don't really know what the reality is because I'm not there yet. But I think that spirits who are in let's use a haunted location as an example, and it kind of gets me because they'll say, well, you're not allowed to cross anyone over because they want the ghost staying there so they can make their profit. Well, first of all, I think if we were going to cross them over, we could do it. I could do it from home the following day. I don't need to do it there with with all my magic spells and stuff. It just doesn't work that way. But they're not going to go if they don't want to go. So that's why I say it's not a question of them being trapped. You can show them the light. You can tell them where the light is. But if they don't want to go, they're not going to go.
I feel like with some spirits, it's their own stuff. Like you think about somebody who is completely depressed in life, how they kind of get stuck in a place spiritually.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's what a spirit does that's in the other side. Maybe they're just stuck with all their emotion and crap from life that they're trying to sort out still. And so they're still there in whatever anger or sadness or whatever it is.
Maybe, I mean, it's possible. I don't know. And I think for anyone to say definitively one thing or another, I don't think anyone could really know one way or the other because, as many readings as I've done, none of them come through and tell me, oh my God, you should see it here. It's amazing. Here, let me show you. This is where I live. This is we don't get that kind of stuff.
It's like we're not allowed to know. Yeah.
No, we have to take our own journey. It's our journey too. All we get to do is tell people what they tell us to tell them. That's it. Tell them bird's eye maple. That's it. Tell them that. Just tell them that. They'll understand it. And you feel like a kook, and they go, "Oh my God, yeah, my father's library was all bird's eye maple." Oh, great, good. Yeah. I mean, we only get to tell them what they tell us to tell them.
Can you share kind of the steps that you use to get into the spirit to try to read somebody or read for somebody?
Yeah, it's funny too because it's changed over the last several years, and as I think the number one, the first thing is you just have to trust them. I think I used to do this big 45-minute to an hour thing, getting ready, bringing myself in, and look, they're going to be there as soon as you just believe them. Look, I trust you. I know you're going to be there. They show up. But I always take 5 or 10 minutes. Really, that's it now. And I'll just sit and kind of just quiet my mind. I used to try to take an inventory of the spirits that were with me. Okay, I got a man over here. He died of a heart attack. There's a woman. She fell off a horse. I mean, you get the whole thing all planned out. And I don't think I was always right. It's like you did the whole reading before the person even walked in the room. So if you just stop, clear your head and say, okay, I'm ready. Take me, use me like an instrument, play me. Use my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, my everything. Anything that's in my history, in my memory, in my emotions that you can use to show me what it is you want to tell these people that are sitting across from me. Use it. Share the space with me. Come as close as you can and just let me know. And then it just works. And sometimes I'll have them come through. They'll start coming through before a session once in a while, like really close. I'll be like, no, stand over here. I'm not ready to talk to you yet. Because what'll happen is they'll tell you a bunch of stuff and then they take off and you're just doing it from memory.
Yeah, it's really quick.
Yeah, it's that quick.
It's
so
real
you have to
quick.
kind of like put them off a little bit. So I don't do much except just stop, clear my head, take a few deep breaths. I put on a little soft music and I just say, okay, just use me. That's it. I'm here for you.
Have you ever seen them even before you get to the reading? Like in dreams or anything? Because I've had that happen many times.
Yeah,
Where
see, I
before I
don't
even
get
get
the
there.
I don't get the dream thing much. Even in my own life, I don't. Once in a while, I'll have a dream, but it's usually nothing prophetic or even my own family members. I've had my mom come through once in a dream, and I can't say it was any more than a dream, really, to be honest. I think that that just isn't how I get it. I've learned for me that in the moment is the best thing for me. I'm here for CL. Put a dome around us. Anyone that's here for CL, you can come on into the dome. If you're not here for CL, stay out for now. And as soon as the reading starts and you're sitting with me, okay, come on in, let's go. And then they can start giving me their thoughts, impressions, and emotions. And I'm open for it. I don't look for them prior to the reading anymore. And they always show up. They're always there. I had a gallery. What's that?
Is there a specific reading that you've had that really stands out to you?
I'm trying to think. I without sharing any kind of real details, because what I do, I maintain the confidentiality, but I did have a woman that had lost a child, and we had gone back and forth about whether it was the right time to meet with her. And he did come through, and I was a little bit concerned because I knew she had lost him. But it was the most healing session I think I've ever had. It was emotional. We cried, we laughed. It was just, truly, we felt his essence in the room with us. His personality was there. There were things that needed to be said by him that were said, that she understood, and she knew. He also gave her some validation of things that were going on in her life right now, where she was going, what she was doing, what was going on with her house. And I'm giving you some details. I don't really remember exactly what the details were, but it was things like that. And that was pretty profound. That was some heavy duty stuff. It was really, really, really good. Still sad nonetheless, but the fact that we could make that connection was just incredible. So that's one of the better ones, I think.
Well, Scott, you're working on a book, aren't you?
I am Living to Serve the Dead. And it is this story of growing up, going into the funeral business at such a young age, and how I began to understand that spirit was around, how I got into the funeral business, where I think the mediumship may have come from in my family. And the book is pretty much written now. It's just with the editors and hoping to get it off to the publisher by spring is what that's the goal at this point. Kind of anxious to get it going, to get it out there. But it's it's really the whole story, and it's also it's also the ghost story. It really is. It's the whole David story. It's the apparitions. It's the calling me through the radio and speak to me on recordings and coming into my place of work and really just hammering me with these signs that I don't get anymore, like that. And just assume they leave me alone most of the time, to be honest with you. But it was an interesting story, and it's really the story of the opening. And it's not part of it is it's really a ghost story. It was kind of scary for a while. So yeah. So I'm hoping that the book will be finished soon and get it published in 2024. That's the goal. I don't know how long it takes once it goes to the publisher, but it could be a while, I would imagine.
So, Scott, we have about 5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us what you have coming up and where people can find you and any last thoughts?
So I'm in Boston, and my website is mediumscottallan.com. That's ALLAN, as you can see on the screen here. It's mediumscottallan.com. I have a bunch of events coming up. You can sign up for my newsletter and get information on all of that, plus my newsletter that I send out twice a month. I've got events coming up in and around Massachusetts, but I also am going to be in San Antonio, Texas at the end of January. Last weekend in January, I'll be in San Antonio reading there. I will be in Naples, Florida for a weekend of mediumship at the Light the Way Spiritualist Center in Naples. And they are going to host me. I'm doing a gallery on Friday night. I got private readings. So if anybody's in Florida and you'd like to meet me there, I'll be in Pennsylvania in January. And that is June 1st. And that is in Newcastle, Pennsylvania at the Haunted Hillview Manor. I'm doing a gallery there on that particular day. What else? Oh, I'm also going to be on season 2 of Dark Echoes Paranormal on Amazon Prime. We are filming next month. I'm very excited about that. Don't have any details to share, but mainly because I don't know any, but I don't have any details to share. But if you look for that, look for Dark Echoes Paranormal on Amazon Prime. That's coming on. And if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can. Just go to my website, again, mediumscottallan.com, and you can go to book a reading, and you can book a medium or psychic session with me there.
Scott, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to chat with you, Ciel. I love this. I do.
Thank you for being a guest.
Well, thanks for having me, and I really am so happy to be here with you. I could talk about this stuff. We could have done another hour, I'm sure. I love
I know. There's a whole list of other questions that we could have gone into, but that just means I got to have you back, right?
Another show. And thank you to Tabitha and Linda and Betsy and everyone else that came out tonight. Tabitha said, "Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure hearing different mediums' experience and how you got where you are." Thank you, Tabitha. I appreciate that as well. So nice. Aww. Thank you, Ciel. Yeah, so nice to chat with everybody and to chat with you.
Thank you guys so much for being listeners. And Scott, thank you for being on. I really enjoy having you on.
An absolute pleasure.
You've been listening to The Gateway, your portal to the unexplained, the mystical, and otherworldly, broadcast live from the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans. You can find me online at www.clthomas.org. Until next time, this is C.L. Thomas.